Chosen one, never reveal this secret. It is your greatest protection. Did you know that on your spiritual journey, God has entrusted you with unique revelations, truths so profound that they were meant only for you? These aren't ordinary insights. They are divine secrets designed to guide and protect you in ways you might not even fully understand yet. But here's the warning. If these sacred truths are shared carelessly with the wrong people, the very foundation of what God has prepared for you could be shaken. In this powerful message, I'm going to share something that most spiritual teachers won't tell you. Have you ever experienced a moment where it felt like unseen forces were working against you? Perhaps opportunities you thought were secure suddenly disappeared, or relationships you trusted became sources of unexpected harm. These aren't random occurrences. There's a deeper spiritual truth at play, a truth tied directly to what you choose to reveal and what you wisely guard. What I am about to share with you is not for the faint-hearted. It is a powerful spiritual key, a gift from God that shields your purpose and secures your destiny. This is not something common. It is not even meant for everyone to understand. But if you've ever felt that certain battles in your life seemed strangely personal, targeted even, you're not imagining things. The struggles you face are often linked to the divine favor over your life, a favor that many envy and few can understand. By the end of this message, you'll discover why certain divine revelations are meant only for you. How to protect the sacred truths God has entrusted to you. The 3 powerful keys to maintaining your spiritual protection. Why silence might be your greatest spiritual weapon. The secret lies in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. The stakes are high because this wisdom doesn't just shape your life. It protects the very essence of who God created you to be. If this resonates with your spirit, if you've ever felt the weight of carrying something sacred that others couldn't understand, take a moment to comment 777 below as a declaration of faith. Stay with me, because what you'll learn here could forever change the way you approach your spiritual journey. The secret is not just in what you do or say, but in what you keep within, the sacred confidences that God has entrusted to your heart. Section 1. The power of divine secret. Have you ever wondered why some of God's most powerful servants kept their greatest revelations hidden? What made Moses wait 40 years before revealing his divine calling? And why did Jesus himself often command those he healed to tell no one? These questions lead us to one of the most profound spiritual principles, the power of divine secrets. Let me share with you a story from the ancient scrolls that perfectly illustrates this truth. In the book of 1 Samuel, we find young David long before he became king. After being anointed by the prophet Samuel, David carried within him the most extraordinary secret. He was chosen by God to be the future king of Israel. But notice what David did with this divine revelation. He didn't announce it to the world. He didn't boast about it in Saul's court. Instead, he returned to the fields, tending his father's sheep. Think about that for a moment. The future king of Israel, chosen by God himself, spent his days in quiet obscurity, protecting sheep from lions and bears. During those silent years, something remarkable was happening. While David kept his divine secret, God was actively working behind the scenes, preparing every detail of his destiny. Each challenge he faced, every lion, every bear, every moment of solitude was shaping him into the king he would become. This wasn't just about timing. It was about protection. Consider what happened to Joseph when he didn't guard his divine dreams. In Genesis 37, we see young Joseph, excited about his prophetic dreams, sharing them freely with his brothers. What followed? Jealousy, betrayal, being sold into slavery. Though God ultimately used these events for good, Joseph's premature revelation triggered a storm of opposition he wasn't yet prepared to face. But there's an even deeper mystery here. When God entrusts you with a divine secret, it's more than just information, it's a sacred trust. These revelations are like spiritual seeds planted in the fertile soil of your heart. Just as a seed requires darkness and protection to develop strong roots, divine revelations need a season of hiddenness to take root and grow. Think about Mary, the mother of Jesus. Luke 2:19 tells us she treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. She carried perhaps the greatest divine secret of all time, that she would bear the Messiah. Yet she maintained this sacred trust in silence, allowing God's plan to unfold in His perfect timing. This principle extends beyond biblical times. Even today, God is entrusting His chosen ones with divine secrets, revelations about their purpose, promises about their purpose, promises about their future, insights into His kingdom. But here's the crucial truth. These secrets aren't just messages to be heard. They're treasures to be protected. When you receive a divine revelation, you're not just receiving information. You're being entrusted with a piece of God's strategic plan. It's like being given a key to a sacred vault. The key itself might seem simple, but what it unlocks is profound beyond measure. The power of these divine secrets lies not just in their content, but in how we steward them. Every revelation carries with it a responsibility, the responsibility to protect it until its appointed time. This is why Jesus often said, "He who has ears to hear, let him hear." Some revelations are only meant for those prepared to receive them. But while you might be tempted to share every insight God gives you, remember this: not every divine whisper is meant for public declaration. Some revelations are meant to be arrows in your quiver, wisdom for your journey, strength for your battles. While understanding the power of divine secrets is crucial, there's an even more important truth we need to grasp: the hidden dangers that come when these sacred revelations are exposed too soon. What I'm about to share with you might challenge everything you've believed about spiritual transparency. Section 2. The hidden dangers of premature revelation. Have you ever shared a cherished plan or dream, only to see it unravel shortly after? Have you experienced the crushing disappointment when something sacred to you was misunderstood or even weaponized against you? What if I told you these weren't mere coincidences, but spiritual principles at work? Let me share with you the profound story of Joseph, a young man whose premature revelation of divine secrets altered the course of his life. In Genesis 37, we find Joseph, the favored son of Jacob, blessed with extraordinary dreams from God. These weren't ordinary dreams. They were divine revelations showing his future leadership and authority. Picture this: a 17-year-old Joseph, wrapped in his coat of many colors, his heart burning with the excitement of these heavenly visions. In his youthful enthusiasm, he couldn't contain the magnitude of what God had shown him. He saw himself elevated above his brothers, even his parents bowing before him. These were powerful revelations, but they weren't meant to be shared, at least not yet. But Joseph, in his innocence, did what many of us are tempted to do. He shared these divine secrets prematurely. He told his brothers about his dreams, perhaps expecting them to rejoice in God's plans for him. Instead, their response was devastating. "Shalt thou indeed reign over us? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us?" Their hearts, already struggling with jealousy over their father's favoritism, were now poisoned with bitter envy. The very revelation that should have remained protected became the catalyst for their darkest actions. They plotted against their own brother, stripped him of his beloved coat, and sold him into slavery. Think about it. How different might Joseph's journey have been if he had kept these dreams in his heart a little longer? While God ultimately used these circumstances for good, Joseph's path to his destiny became infinitely more treacherous because of his premature revelation. This ancient wisdom echoes through time into our modern world. How often do we, like Joseph, invite unnecessary trials by sharing too soon? When God entrusts us with divine insights, they're like delicate seeds that need protection while they take root. Exposing them too early to the harsh elements of doubt, criticism, and envy can damage their growth. Consider this. Spiritual secrets carry a divine power that, when exposed prematurely, can be misunderstood, misjudged, or even weaponized against you. It's like placing a rare, priceless jewel in the hands of someone who cannot recognize its worth. What happens to that jewel? It risks being neglected, tarnished, or even stolen. In our age of instant sharing and social media, the temptation to reveal everything immediately is stronger than ever. But remember, not everyone around you is equipped to understand or honor what God has entrusted to you. Why? Because these sacred revelations are tailored to your unique calling, a divine script written exclusively for you. When you share these spiritual treasures with the wrong audience, it's like unlocking a door to negative forces that can infiltrate your path. Dreams and plans are akin to seeds, delicately planted by God within the fertile soil of your heart. Just as a seed requires quiet, undisturbed conditions to sprout and flourish, so do your spiritual secrets. Are there dreams you've shared that might have needed the protective silence of your heart instead? How might God be calling you to guard these treasures more diligently? In Proverbs 4:23, we are reminded, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Your heart is the sacred chamber where God places his promises and visions. Protecting those treasures doesn't mean you distrust others. It means you honor God's timing and wisdom. As we move forward in understanding these divine principles, remember that timing is everything in God's kingdom. Just as Jesus told his disciples not to cast their pearls before swine, Matthew 7:6, we too must exercise similar discernment with our own spiritual pearls. The beauty of your journey and the value of your purpose may be invisible to many around you. Some, through lack of understanding, and others, perhaps with intentional malice, may unknowingly or purposefully sabotage what you are striving to build. This is why God calls us to exercise caution in what we reveal, ensuring that his divine plan for our lives can unfold without unnecessary disruption. Now, as we prepare to explore the practical tools for protecting these sacred truths, ask yourself, what might change in your spiritual journey if you began treating your divine revelations with the reverence they deserve? But knowing the dangers is only the beginning. What you need now are the practical tools to protect these sacred revelations. Let me share with you the 3 pillars of sacred protection that will transform how you guard the divine secrets God has entrusted to you. Section 3. The 3 pillars of sacred protection. Have you ever felt the weight of carrying a divine revelation? Do you sometimes sense an unseen battle around the sacred truths God has given you? What if I told you that your greatest spiritual protection lies not in what you do, but in what you carefully guard? Today, I want to share with you the 3 pillars of sacred protection, ancient wisdom that has shielded God's chosen ones throughout history. But first, let me tell you a story that changed my understanding of spiritual protection forever. Think back to the time of King Hezekiah, one of Judah's most righteous kings. In 2 Kings 20, we find a profound lesson about the danger of revealing divine blessings too soon. After God miraculously healed Hezekiah and added 15 years to his life, the king faced a crucial test. Envoys from Babylon came, allegedly to congratulate him on his recovery. Flattered by their attention and perhaps eager to demonstrate God's favor, Hezekiah made a fatal mistake. He showed them everything, his treasuries, his armory, all the wealth God had blessed him with. Not a single thing remained hidden. Can you imagine the scene? The Babylonian envoys, their eyes widening as they walked through the palace, taking careful note of every precious item, every strategic advantage. What Hezekiah saw as an opportunity to showcase God's blessings, they saw as military intelligence. The prophet Isaiah soon arrived with a devastating message. Hear the word of the Lord. The time will come when everything in your palace will be carried off to Babylon. Nothing will be left. This brings us to our first pillar, strategic silence. Just as Hezekiah learned too late, not every inquiry deserves a complete response. There are times when silence becomes your strongest shield, protecting not just you, but the divine purpose God has entrusted to you. Consider how Jesus himself practiced this wisdom. When questioned by Pilate, he remained silent on certain matters. His silence wasn't weakness. It was divine strategy in action. This leads us to a profound truth. Sometimes your greatest protection comes not from what you say, but from what you choose to keep hidden. The second pillar is what I call the fortress prayer. Think of Mary, the mother of Jesus, who treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. She understood that divine revelations require divine protection. Through prayer, you create an invisible shield around the sacred truths God has given you. But here's the key that most miss. Prayer isn't just about asking for protection. It's about maintaining the sacred space where God's secrets can safely dwell. It's about creating a fortress that no spiritual attack can penetrate. The third pillar is perhaps the most crucial, the circle of trust. Remember how Jesus had the multitudes, the 70, the 12, and then the inner circle of 3. Not everyone who follows you should have access to your deepest spiritual revelations. Let me be clear. This isn't about being exclusive or secretive. It's about being wise with the sacred truths God has entrusted to you. Think of Joseph. How different might his story have been if he had shared his dreams only with those God had prepared to hear them. These 3 pillars, strategic silence, fortress prayer, and the circle of trust, work together to create an impenetrable shield around your divine purpose. But here's what makes them truly powerful. They don't just protect you from external threats. They create a sacred space where God's promises can mature without interference. As we transition into understanding how to apply these pillars in your daily life, remember this. Every divine revelation comes with a divine responsibility to protect it. The way you guard these sacred truths today will determine how powerfully they manifest tomorrow. Think about this. What divine revelations has God entrusted to you? How might your journey change if you began applying these 3 pillars of protection to guard those sacred truths? Now that you understand these 3 pillars, let's explore how God himself uses the strategy of concealment to protect his chosen ones. Section 4. The divine strategy of concealment. Have you ever wondered why God sometimes works in mysterious ways? Why certain divine plans unfold in silence, hidden from the watching world? What if I told you that concealment itself is one of God's most powerful strategies for protecting his chosen ones? Let me share with you a profound story from the Bible that reveals this divine pattern, the story of Moses' early life. But not just the story you might know. Let's delve deeper into the layers of divine concealment that protected one of God's most powerful servants. In Exodus, we find a time when Pharaoh had ordered the death of every Hebrew male child. In this moment of crisis, Jochebed, Moses' mother, faced an impossible choice. But notice how God's strategy of concealment began to unfold. For 3 months, she kept her baby hidden. Think about that, 3 months of constant vigilance, every cry a potential death sentence. Every moment filled with both terror and trust. The scripture tells us in Exodus 2:2, when she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But this wasn't just a mother's desperate attempt at protection. It was the beginning of a divine pattern that would mark Moses' entire life. Each act of concealment was a thread in God's tapestry of protection. Consider the extraordinary detail that the Bible provides. When she could hide him no longer, Jochebed crafted a basket of papyrus, waterproofed with tar and pitch. This wasn't just any basket. The Hebrew word used here is teba, The same word used here is teba, the same word used for Noah's ark. Just as the ark protected Noah from the waters of judgment, this tiny vessel would protect the future deliverer of Israel. But watch how God's strategy deepens. The basket wasn't placed just anywhere in the Nile. Jochebed carefully chose a spot among the reeds where Pharaoh's daughter was known to bathe. What looked like exposure was actually divine positioning. What seemed like abandonment was actually careful placement. And here's where the divine strategy becomes truly remarkable. Who does God position to watch over the basket? Moses' sister, Miriam, another layer of concealment. She appears to be just a curious child, but she's actually a crucial part of God's protection plan. When Pharaoh's daughter discovers the basket, God's strategy of concealment reaches its masterful climax. Through Miriam's clever intervention, Moses ends up being raised by his own mother, right under Pharaoh's nose. Right under Pharaoh's nose. The very palace that sought to destroy him became the place that protected him. But this pattern of divine concealment didn't end with Moses' childhood. Throughout his life, God continued to hide him in key moments. 40 years in Midian, preparing him for leadership. 40 days on Mount Sinai, hidden in the cloud of God's presence. Do you see the pattern emerging? God's greatest works often begin hiddenness. His most powerful servants are frequently shaped in seasons of concealment. Think about it. Joseph had 13 years of hiddenness before his elevation. David spent years in caves before ascending to the throne. Even Jesus himself spent 30 years in relative obscurity before his public ministry began. This divine strategy of concealment isn't just about physical hiding, it's about spiritual protection. It's about creating a space where God can work unhindered by human interference or premature exposure. When you understand this pattern, you begin to see your own seasons of hiddenness differently. Those times when it feels like you're hidden from view. They might just be God's strategy of protection and preparation. But here's what makes this truth so powerful for you today. God is still using this same strategy. Just as he protected Moses through divine concealment, he's protecting you through the secrets he's trusted to your heart. As we begin to understand this divine strategy of concealment, a remarkable paradox emerges. It's in these very moments of hiddenness that our greatest spiritual power begins to grow. Section 5. The paradox of spiritual power. Have you ever wondered why some of the most powerful spiritual figures in history kept their deepest revelations hidden? What if I told you that the very act of concealment could multiply your spiritual power? And what secrets lie within the paradox that the less you reveal, the more your divine protection grows? Let me share with you a profound story from the annals of biblical history. The journey of Moses up Mount Sinai. Picture this, a mountain shrouded in thick clouds, thunder rolling across the peaks, and divine fire descending from heaven. In Exodus 24, we witness something extraordinary. Moses ascends Mount Sinai alone, entering that sacred cloud where God dwelled. For 40 days and 40 nights, he remained there, receiving divine revelations that would shape nations. But here's what most people miss. Notice how Moses didn't broadcast these revelations in real time. He didn't send messengers down the mountain with daily updates. Instead, he maintained complete silence during this sacred encounter. The power of this silence becomes even more apparent when we consider what happened below. While Moses was receiving these divine secrets, the people grew restless. Their inability to handle the mystery, the silence, led them to create a golden calf, a tragic example of what happens when people can't wait for divine timing. Yet Moses, in his wisdom, didn't just receive the law, he received something far more precious, the art of divine concealment. When he finally descended, his face literally glowed with such intensity that he had to wear a veil. Exodus 34:33 tells us, when Moses finished speaking to them, he put a veil over his face. This veil carries a profound spiritual lesson for us today. It wasn't just about protecting the people from the brightness. It was about protecting the sacred energy Moses had received. The veil became a physical symbol of spiritual discretion. Think about that for a moment. The more intimate his encounter with God, the more necessary it became to conceal certain aspects of it. This is the divine paradox we're exploring today. True spiritual power often grows in proportion to what we keep hidden. Consider also the example of Jesus himself. How often do we see him in the Gospels pulling away from crowds, retreating to quiet places, maintaining silence about certain revelations? Mark 1:44 shows Jesus specifically instructing someone he healed. See that you don't tell this to anyone. This pattern reveals a profound spiritual principle. Power multiplies in privacy. Just as a seed must be buried in darkness before it can sprout, certain divine gifts must be protected from premature exposure. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. In Daniel 2:22, we read, "He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in darkness, and light dwells with him." This scripture shows us that God himself operates in the realm of divine secrecy, revealing and concealing according to his perfect wisdom. The paradox deepens when we realize that this principle of spiritual concealment actually increases our effectiveness. Think of it like a pressure cooker. The sealed environment allows the pressure to build, creating conditions for transformation that wouldn't be possible in an open container. Similarly, when you guard your divine revelations, you create a spiritual pressure cooker effect. The power builds, the wisdom deepens, and your spiritual authority grows, not despite the concealment, but because of it. This isn't about being secretive out of fear. Rather, it's about understanding the divine economy of spiritual power. Every premature revelation is like opening a pressure valve too soon. You release potential that hasn't yet reached its full strength. Through years of studying these patterns, I've observed something remarkable. Those who master this principle of sacred concealment often experience supernatural breakthrough in ways that defy natural explanation. Their prayers carry more weight, their words hold more authority, and their spiritual impact grows exponentially. But remember, this journey isn't just about keeping secrets. It's about cultivating a deep reverence for the sacred mysteries God has entrusted to you. It's about understanding that some revelations are like fine wine. They must be aged in darkness before their full flavor can be appreciated. As we transition into our next section about practical application, consider this. What divine revelations has God given you that might need more time in the spiritual pressure cooker? What sacred insights are you carrying that might be more powerful if kept hidden for now? The power of concealment awaits those who understand its mysteries. Are you ready to embrace this paradox and watch as your spiritual authority multiplies in ways you never thought possible? Now that we understand the paradox of spiritual power through concealment, let's explore how to practically apply these principles in your daily walk. Section 6. Practical application. Have you ever wondered why some spiritual journeys seem to face constant interference while others flourish in divine protection? What separates those who maintain their sacred connection from those who struggle with continuous spiritual attacks? And most importantly, how can you ensure your divine secrets remain protected in a world that constantly demands transparency? Let me share with you a profound story that illustrates the power of practical spiritual protection. In the early days of the Christian church, there lived a devoted believer named Marcus in ancient Rome. Like many of you, Marcus carried divine revelations, secret insights God had entrusted to him about the future of the church. In those dangerous times, when Christians faced severe persecution, Marcus felt the weight of both his divine calling and the constant threat surrounding him. One day, overwhelmed by the significance of his revelations, he decided to share them with a close friend who had shown interest in the faith. But here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. Within days, Roman authorities began investigating their community. Marcus's friend, though well-meaning, had shared these sacred insights with others who couldn't comprehend their spiritual significance. The divine secrets, meant to protect and guide, became vulnerable to misinterpretation and mockery. This reminds us of Joseph's story in Genesis 37. Remember how his premature sharing of divine dreams led to years of hardship? Both stories teach us a crucial lesson about the practical aspects of protecting divine secrets. So, how do we apply this wisdom in our daily lives? Let me share 3 practical keys that will transform your spiritual protection. First, develop what I call the divine pause practice. Before sharing any spiritual insight, pause and pray this simple prayer. Lord, is this the time? Is this the time? Is this the person? Learn to recognize God's gentle restraint or release in your spirit. This isn't about fear, it's about divine wisdom. Second, establish your sacred boundaries protocol. Just as the ancient Israelites built walls around their holy places, you must construct spiritual boundaries. Start by identifying your inner circle, those few individuals who truly understand and respect your spiritual journey. Be intentional about what you share and with whom. Third, implement the spiritual leak detection system. Regularly examine your life for areas where divine secrets might be vulnerable. Are there relationships that drain your spiritual energy? Conversations that leave you feeling exposed? These are spiritual leaks that need attention. Consider this. When Solomon built the temple, he created different courts with varying levels of access. The Holy of Holies, containing the most sacred elements, was accessible only to the high priest once a year. Your divine revelations deserve similar protection, but here's what most people miss. Protection isn't just about keeping secrets, it's about preserving power. Think of a pressure cooker. Its strength lies in its ability to contain pressure. Similarly, your spiritual power grows stronger when properly contained. I'm reminded of Mary, the mother of Jesus, who treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. Luke 2:19. Her silence wasn't passive. It was a powerful strategy that protected the greatest divine secret ever entrusted to a human being. As you implement these practices, you'll notice a shift in your spiritual atmosphere. The constant battles may begin to lessen. The divine insights will grow clearer. Your spiritual strength will increase, not because you're fighting harder, but because you're protecting better. Remember, chosen one, every spiritual attack against you targets what God has deposited within you. By applying these practical steps, you're not just protecting secrets, you're preserving your divine purpose. Conclusion, your divine mandate. As we close this message, let me ask you this. Have you ever experienced a moment where it felt like unseen forces were working against you? Perhaps opportunities you thought were secure suddenly disappeared, or relationships you trusted became sources of unexpected harm. These aren't random occurrences. Today, we've unveiled a profound spiritual truth about the power of divine secrets and the sacred responsibility of protecting them. We've learned that what God entrusts to us isn't meant for casual sharing. It's a precious gift that requires our careful stewardship. Remember the 3 pillars we discussed: strategic silence, the fortress prayer, and your circle of trust. These aren't just concepts. They're spiritual tools designed to protect your divine purpose and secure your destiny. The Bible tells us in Proverbs 4:23, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Guarding these sacred truths is an act of faith and trust in God, allowing Him to protect and guide you on the path He has ordained. To all of God's chosen ones listening today, know that keeping silent about certain matters is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is an acknowledgement that God's hand is upon you and His ways are higher than ours. By maintaining discretion, you open the door for His blessings and ensure that no weapon formed against you will prosper. The world may not understand your silence, but your Father in heaven sees your obedience and will reward you in due time. If this message has inspired or blessed you, we humbly invite you to support our work through a super thanks. Your donations allow us to continue spreading God's word and reaching hearts across the globe. To those who can give, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. For those who cannot, your prayers, likes, and shares are a blessing to us in ways words cannot express. Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with others who may need this message of encouragement and wisdom. Your engagement helps this community grow and allows us to touch more lives with the light of Christ. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What part of today's message spoke to you the most? How has protecting your divine secrets transformed your spiritual journey? As you go about your day, may God cover you with His grace, strengthen you in your journey, and fill your life with His peace. You are deeply loved, and we thank you for being a part of this family. Stay tuned for more messages of hope and inspiration. Until next time, may God bless you richly in all you do. Stay blessed and favored.